This is a Blairing Out with Eric Blair show, and today I'm here with Corey Feldman, star of stage, screen, television, and radio. This is kind of an artistic reunion for you and photographer Maggie St. Thomas.
In order to get that shot, you got to have the best lighting possible.
Known for her work with Sublime, The Ramones, B.B. King, and your first Truth Movement CD, Still Searching for Soul, as well as a promo of you and Corey Haim. What do you love about working with Maggie St. Thomas?
So John Halpern was the owner of Vegas Records, which released the first Truth Movement album, Still Searching for Soul. And he's a really cool guy. I love John. He's very laid back, mellow dude. And so when we were getting ready to do the album cover and stuff, I mean, I was very young at the time and I didn't have a lot of context like I do now. And, you know, I didn't think about saving photographers' numbers and things like that. So he had said, I've got, this great photographer. She's a great rock and roll photographer. You should try her out. And I was like, well, I don't really need a great photographer for this shot because it's so basic. It's nothing. It's just all I want is half of my face dark and then half of it really close up so you can't tell who it is. And that's really it. And he said, okay, well, this girl's great. So whatever you want, whatever you need, she can do it great. And, she works on film and she develops her own stuff. She's got her own lab. And I was like, okay, cool. So she's an artist. So she came out and she did the shoot at my house. And I guess I didn't really expect much, and it was such a basic shot that I was like, anybody can do it. But I really felt that just the lighting and the place, I mean, just something about it, that she had her own little special, unique flair. And I was really impressed with her work. I really liked the way she worked. I really felt like she knew what she was doing, and I'm like, she's got something. This kid's got something. One day she's gonna do great things. I just remember it being a really great experience. So I was very pleased with the album cover. We liked it. But again, it wasn't, rocket science. It was just kind of a close up. But she added her own little touch. And so we stayed friends for many years and hung out, and and she shot other stuff, I guess, with Corey. I didn't remember, but we hung out and we got to know each other, and we just stayed friends for the years. And then we lost touch, and I don't know, a decade passed, right? And she hits me up on Facebook because of my campaign for this album, and one day she gives me a message. She's like, hey, remember me? I shot your album cover. And I'm like, oh my God, how are you? Yeah, how's everything? Yes. And she's like, yeah, I'd love to work with you again. What do you think? And I was like, wow. Okay, wait, let me think about that. She worked on my album, and then I started thinking that she did my last solo album, which was called Former Child Actor. And I was thinking about the shots, and I'm like, well, they're really basic shots, so I don't know if she can handle this. But I remember that she's good, and I remember a good experience, but I don't remember, her quality of work. Not to say that the shots in that album were bad, but they were very generic, very basic. It didn't take a lot of art behind it. So I was like, yes, because I remember you, and you're cool, and I know you did a good job before, but trepidatious, eh. And then one day she posts me on Facebook after I talked to her, and she hits me up again, and she shows the cover of the album, and she's like, oh, it was so much fun working on this album. Can't wait to work on it again. I was like, oh, wait, you did that album? Oh, never mind. Yeah, you're great. Okay, you got this. Because I know that it's more up her alley anyway. Doing something more artistic, more stylized, more, intense of a shot is something that she's going to enjoy and know what to do with it. So, I had a very specific idea in mind with this because I've obviously been developing the many stages of this album for a very, very long time.
10 years.
10 years. Before I even knew what it was. I mean, 10 years ago I didn't know what it was. I just started recording songs for a pop album as a follow-up to Former Child Actor. And I got about 5 or 6 songs deep when things changed in my life and I started working on these films, and then I got this long period of time off, and then I went into the 2 Coreys, and I was like working on the Two Corys and Lost Boys and all this stuff going on, boom, 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 boom. I just got so crazy with all my film and television that I totally put everything on the back burner. And then we're working on season 2 of the Two Corys, and the therapist on the show says, hey, you should write a song for your dad. So I did, okay. So I go and write a song for my dad, and the song is like, oh my God, this sounds like a great Truth Movement song. And from that, I went, okay, I don't know why, I don't know how, but I know that I'm really inspired right now to write an entire new Truth Movement album. And I did. And it was the easiest project I've ever put together. Literally, I mean, we're talking, I got John Caron from Pink Floyd, Scott Page from Pink Floyd, Storm Thurgeson from Pink Floyd to do Pink Floyd's art, to do the artwork for the album. You know, my great friend Mark Caron, who was on the first Truth Movement album, but had since gone on to work with Grateful Dead and Rat Dog, and we got him back. And it just, like, literally all of this came together, wrote the entire album, produced the entire album, and had it delivered within 3 months.
Wow.
3 months. How did that happen? That was, like, divine intervention. And the greatest album I've ever made. I'm so proud of that album. But after we toured, 2 years later, we released the album, we tour, everything's done, take a Truth Movement break, start thinking about a solo album. I build a studio in my house, and I start, you know, tinkering around like, hey, guess what? I've got a studio in my house. I can record all night if I want to, and all I need is an engineer. And this great guy named Greg Serratiano came to me through Dave Dunn, who's been a longtime producer I've worked with for many years. And Dave's on this album again. He's on, I think, every album I've done at some point. Well, no, not the last Truth Movement. He wasn't there. But anyway, but Dave came over and he says, hey, you know, here's some gear to help you with your studio. And by the way, I've got this great engineer for you. He's a really cool cat. You'll love him. I said, okay, great. I sit down with this engineer. We got along instantly. We clicked. I start just fiddling around. Let's test the studio. Let's check things out, see if it works. And that became this awesome track called Test 1. And it's called Test 1 because it was literally, we were plugging stuff in as we were going to make sure we got the right levels, make sure things were working and everything was attached. And it became this really brilliant hip-hop jazz song on the album. But anyway, so it clicked, and all of a sudden now I had the studio at my hands and my fingers and capabilities I've never had before. And I knew if I ever get my own studio, watch out, I'll be making crazy amounts of music. And that's when it started. And, you know, shortly after, I made Ascension Millennium, and that was like literally one night in a studio, an hour and a half, I wrote that song. Like literally from like the time I first started with the first drum beat. It started as a joke, actually. My old assistant, for anybody who watched the Two Corys, my old assistant Jake, you know, was over watching me in the studio, and I was actually doing my first ever guitar solo on one of my songs for a version of Working Class Hero by John Lennon, which is on the album. It closes the album, actually. But anyway, so I'm doing Working Class Hero, and I'm doing a little guitar solo, just, you know, fiddling around. And Jake's like, kind of clowning on me. He's like, oh wow, this is so exciting. I'm watching Corey Feldman record his first ever electric guitar solo. Ooh, so exciting, you know. And I'm like, yeah, you want to see something really cool? Do you think that's cool, really? I'm like, watch this. I'm going to show you how to create an entire song from scratch. And I literally, give me a drum sound, you know, put down the beat. Give me a bass line sound, you know, good bass. Gives me the bass, plug in the sound. And we literally built it for an hour and a half straight. And then boom, that was Ascension Millennium. I never changed one thing. I heard the melody of the chorus in my head, and I went dun 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 dun. Like I played that out. Okay, what is that? Ascension Millennium. I was like, what is everybody thinking about right now? Because it was right before 2012 and all that stuff was going on, like the world's gonna end and da. So I said, okay, well, if that happened, then it's because of the new millennium. And so what is gonna happen if it's like the Bible? Then we're all gonna ascend. So basically what everybody's talking about is the Ascension Millennium, right? Okay, makes sense. And that was it. So anyway, I put that song out. It became this crazy like cult hit out of nowhere. Like, got more views on MTV. We did a video, got more views on MTV like than I could have ever imagined. Like 2 million people have seen the thing. It gets buzzworthy status. People are like, this is the best song ever. Oh my God, I listen to it every day. You know, and I'm just like, wow. I walk down the street, people are like, man, I love Ascension Millennium. I'm like, what is that? When did this start happening? I just made music for me and for my small group of fans. That is the beauty of technology and social media, because now all of a sudden, like I said, 37,000 downloads for that song only on Spotify, you know, not to mention iTunes. So the point is, like, yeah, thank you, people. I'm glad you're all listening. I've been here the whole time, but I'm glad you're finally listening. And that's the story of the album. So from there, I just like loved what happened with Ascension so much. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing a whole album of this stuff. And before I knew it, I brought back those old songs and I used that as part of the base of it. And around that time, I had been developing the idea of, you know, Corey's Angels, but really that was all developed around the idea of this album, because as soon as I came up with the concept of Ascension Millennium and I knew that I wanted to do something helping beautiful girls, I thought, well, I'll make them the angels, and this all kind of ties together. And so the last 3 years has been just all about branding. I'm going to throw these parties. I'm not going to tell anybody why I'm throwing them, you know, but have girls in angel outfits, subliminal advertising, because I wanted people to remember angelic to the core, angelic to the core, angelic to the core. And I've been really doing nothing but promoting that secretly for the last 3 years, and now it's finally here.
What is the message of the music on the album Angelic to the Core? Double album,
yes indeed. 22 songs.
That's a lot.
The message is various. I mean, there's a lot of messages on this album. There's messages in everything that I write. You know, my belief in music is that the music itself should move you and make you want to dance. It should move your soul. But the music is the music, and with the words, you know, if you're going to write words, then why write something that goes nowhere, means nothing? Mm-hmm. I would much rather hear words that are deep and powerful and motivating and, you know, that bring me up, that lift me up. That's what music should do. It should lift you, you know. It comes from the church, you know, not that I don't go to church, but I know that it comes from that root of, like, you know, I love that gospel music, like Mercy. That, I don't know if you've heard that song on the album yet, but I love it. We have a choir. It's beautiful. So I think that music should move you, and I think that the message is very important, no matter what it is, you know, as long as it's not negative. So not to say that you can't have some darkness, because that's just the reality of life, but there's a difference between touching on the darkness and dwelling in it. And so I always try to tap it a bit, but I don't ever like to completely diverge into it, because I want the music to take you up to a higher place. So anyway, there's a lot of messages in it, but they're mixed messages of all sorts of things. But we talk about a lot of topics. You know, obviously ascending and ascension and all of that is a part of it. Being angelic to the core, which is about, you know, being virtuous and having good morality and sticking to your guns and believing in yourself. And then there's songs like, you know, Baby Blue Eyes, which is about my kid. You know, For My Love, which is just a pretty love song. You know, Seamless, which is about, you know, a beautiful girl that you can fall in love with, and then she can tear your heart out with her daggers. And there's songs about being honest, and it's called Love and Lies, and it's about being honest, and, you know, a lover cheating on her boyfriend or whatever, and, you know, all sorts of different topics, but they all have relevancy.
So now what's next for Corey Feldman?
I don't know. Maybe we're gonna go out tonight. No, I've got this great movie coming out, which I just finished, called Corbin Nash, which is probably the wildest character you've ever seen me do, or at least since the birthday. But
You play Queenie?
Queenie, yes, the vampire transsexual.
Wow.
Transsexual vampire, however you want to call it, but yes, she's a tranny, folks, and that was fun. It was a big departure. I've got, like, you know, prosthetics and, you know, all the vampire stuff too, but yeah, it was a fun character to play. I really enjoyed it, actually.
And then will you be taking your new album out on the road?
That's the plan, you know. I guess it's all going to decide how well things turn out. You know, we hope everybody loves it, first of all, but, you know, we're going to push a single pretty hard, and this is going to be my first real attempt at charting top 40, Billboard, mainstream, whatever. And, of course, very poetically, the first single for the new album's release is called Go For It.
Nice. And with that, Corey Feldman, thank you so much for being on the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show.
Absolutely.
You're
Thanks for the good interview.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know. I'm the man. All right. This is the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show with Corey Feldman signing off.
The Blairing Out Show.